Yeah, so basically, Chartio hooks up to databases and now other data sources. We have recently launched a private beta of Salesforce, and that's what we're here to kind of show. But primarily before that, we focused on data sources, and now we're trying to make Salesforce act like a data source and people be able to interact with it just like a database. And I'm going to just kind of show you what we do. We're very powerful and simple interface. We try to be as intuitive as possible to try to make it so the business but tech savvy user can also make charts and see what's going on inside your database or your Salesforce data. And yeah, let me just kind of jump into the demo. So first, we've made this mock company called Boatio, and you can think of it, it's Airbnb for boats. So you can rent your boat out to other people, and people can rent your boat. So just imagine that you work for this company, and this is kind of an example dashboard of what you have, how many boats are being rented, what kind of boats are being rented, how much money we're making, et cetera, et cetera. So to add a chart, this is kind of an example dashboard of what you'd see. To add a chart, you click the Add a Chart button. You come down in here. In this example, I've just got two data sources added. One's MySQL and one's Google Analytics. And I'll show you Salesforce in just a moment. So we've got, when we connect to your database, this one's MySQL, but we support almost every relational database out there. We pull in the tables and the schema, so we can get the information about what tables and columns you have in your database. So here we just have 3 boats, trips, and users, and inside of each of the tables there's a bunch of the columns listed. And so right now I'm just going to make a graph of the revenue of this company over time, and this company makes revenue by renting out boats. So we're going to get the boat price per hour, and we're going to put that's a measure, and then we're going to match that by trip date. We only make money when there's actually a trip. Oops. I should look at my own screen. Okay, and what's happened under the hood, Chartio is actually just writing a query based on what we dragged and dropped over. And if you want, you can actually, I like to just start with the query that was already written, but you can come in here and write a custom query. And write, maybe you have something more advanced, you want to do more divisions of math, or you want to do some sub-queries or sub-selects. You can just come in here and make your own sub-query. But we'll go back to interactive mode because that's more fun. And Chartio just runs this query on your database, so it gets live results. We really encourage everyone to have their own live reporting database, and we just connect up to that. It's a big differentiator of ours is that we connect to databases that are on your servers. We don't make you do data warehousing and upload us a copy. We don't take a copy of data out of your Salesforce either. We deal with the data where it naturally lies, and that's just more secure. And so we run this query, we come back with the data, and we can plot it in a table, or a line chart, or a scatter, or an area chart, or a bar chart. And that's really simple for us to switch. Right now, we're grouping everything by week. But I can change it and say, instead I want to group it by month. And we're actually, by default, plotting the average price per hour of the boat. But we can change that to, instead, find total. There we go. And there we have, we see the revenue of our company over time. And we can also do fun things and drag over the type. And now we have everything split out, and we can plot it in a different way. We have everything split out by the type of boat that we're renting and how much money we're making off sailboats versus banana boats and other types of boats. So then we can just save this to our dashboard. And we make it really easy to just drag around your chart and resize it to whatever size you want and place it anywhere. I'm just going to delete this chart for now because we already have a completed dashboard. You can also make many different dashboards here on the left. Just click Add a New Dashboard if you want to have a different grouping of what's going on. So in just like a matter of just a few seconds there, we had a question: how much revenue are we making per month? And we just very easily through the Chartio interface made that chart. We've also got cool drag and drop sliders for the date range if you want to change what range of the month you're looking at. Chartio actually goes in and rewrites that query, whether it's the Salesforce data or your database data. Both of them can be shown on the same chart and on the same dashboards. And we just kind of change our queries based on using the same syntax that data source uses. We also are really excited about having these interactive drill downs. So, for example, we can look at this chart here, and this is boat types rented, and we see that in this time period, sailboats are the most popular boat that's being rented. So we can click on this bar to learn more information about it. And Chartio automatically rewrites this query to show it based over a larger time period. We're now looking at the rentals by week, and we can click on one of these bars and zoom in even further and look at it by day. Only 3 days this week was there a boat rental, in a sailboat rental, I should say. And we can also pivot by other things and pivot all the way down and now separate it out by Bob's, by both name, and one was the Bob and the Jennifer and the Mary. And we can look at the source data as well and see the actual rentals that happened for those specific boats. So it's really cool to be able to just start out at the top level. You have a graph, and a chart is nice. It answers you a question for you, but usually when you get that answer, you just have more questions. You want to dig deeper. And so we try to make it as easy as possible and as frictionless as possible to dig down and find the data that you're wanting to look at. So you guys are most interested in Salesforce. Here's all information we pulled from Salesforce. We're doing beta support for this. You do have to email us to get the link for this. Just hello@Chartio. For any of you interested in playing around with Salesforce data in Chartio. And we like to have that same interface. We're still working out some of the kinks, but we have that same drag and drop for creating the charts, and I'll show you one here. We can go in. Also, adding a data source to Salesforce is as simple as you go to our Add Data Source page, you click Salesforce, and you just log in as the OAuth, and that gives us access to your API. And so we can choose something, drag over a number of data sources we want to plot, and the date they are added. So we're actually seeing the average number of data sources over time. And we can plot it in whatever way that we would like. And to show you guys, maybe a lot of you know SQL here. So we're just, instead of writing SQL like we were showing in the other examples, we're just generating some SQL here and pulling those results back for you. Those of you who are really good at SQL, maybe you do that for a living, can come in here and add and modify this and chart basically whatever you want. So we'd like to do a really simple charting interface on top of Salesforce, make it really easy for you to drag and drop and make charts. We hear a lot of people kind of frustrated with what Salesforce has for reporting, and we hear a lot of people also say, I'd like to see that information next to my database information, along with my Google Analytics, and just kind of see it all together on the same charts. And another group of our customers like to just verify that what they're putting into Salesforce is correct. A lot of times you're pushing stuff up to the APIs, it breaks for a few days, or something's not going up and the data's just not synced up in Salesforce as much. And so it's nice to be able to make your graph of number of new customers that you're already storing in your database and put that next to the Salesforce results of how many customers they're having plotted, and just make sure that those are both paired up correctly. Often you find that they are not, and then you can drill down and figure out what is that actual difference that's happening. So yeah. That is, I think, everything to talk about. Oh, sorry, I wanted to also show that when we do pull in your database, and as I said, we pull in the schema information of everything that's going on, or all the tables and columns. With Salesforce, we do the same thing. We treat Salesforce as much like a database as we can, even though SQL's not quite, as powerful as SQL. But we pull in all of the tables, and Salesforce, many of you know, is just kind of notorious for having just a whole bunch of tables. If this really just was, if all the tables were displayed in your left side column for your dragging and dropping, you might be overwhelmed. There's just too much going on. So we really make it easy. We by default hide a whole bunch of these that just aren't as important of tables. But you can choose to hide more of them or unhide the ones that we have hidden. Your custom objects and custom tables. Almost everyone uses Salesforce, uses a lot of custom tables. Those will all also be pulled into the schema. And a lot of times they have weird cryptic names. I guess create a date is a fine one, but you could come in and change the name in Chartio to be whatever you'd like. You can change the type that we read. You can also set up foreign keys on how one table is related to the other. We pull this stuff in automatically, but sometimes you just might not agree with how Salesforce has chosen to set it up, or maybe something has changed. If your schema ever changes, you can hit refresh schema. And finally, I don't know how this is going to look. There's a lot of tables in this. But we do have a schema diagram that kind of helps you learn. Having trouble loading. Oh, Salesforce is quite big. I should have tested this earlier. But we have a schema diagram that kind of shows you how all the tables are related to each other. Oh, I just need to drag it there. It shows you how all your tables are related to each other, and this is just kind of helpful for people who don't know your data source and want to play with it more. Yep, that's Salesforce. I can also show you this, the Bodia one, where we just have 3 tables, is quite smaller. That's a little bit easier to read, but this is your Salesforce data source. But as you also hide things, and we need to do a little bit better job of hiding a bunch of the fields that just aren't necessary, you can get less and less of this and just make it more easy for people to actually interact with and use. That's also one of the problems with the Salesforce interface, is just all the options, and the fact that we let you kind of eliminate some of those and limit it is nice. So, I think I've covered everything. Mel, am I forgetting anything? Oh. So we have different products. So one way we have different pricing. It's an analyst plan is $95 a month, and it goes up by $50 per user a month. Sorry, adding additional users adds $50 a month to that. But we also tier things based on number of projects. And so if you have a sales team and a marketing team and an exec team, and you want to keep those data sources separate and those dashboards separate from each other and have different permissions for the different people on there, you buy things up by projects, and those we charge $300 a month for, and so that's our pricing. And yeah, there's also a 2-week free trial, and so you guys can log in and just hit your Salesforce login button and give it a whirl. Actually, you have to email us to get the Salesforce access, but we're more than happy to do that link right away. So. Yeah.
I saw the SQL example and the Salesforce example. Did you have an example with both, using both?
Yeah. Let me see if I added a data source to this Salesforce one. Let me see. I did add a data source. I'll add a chart. And we can do, try this over again. So we'll get, this is the Salesforce one. And then what we just do is we click to add a new layer. And then we can add this. And now we're taking it from this MySQL data source. I think this is actually really old data. So the timelines aren't going to match up. Yeah, the timelines still match up, and they're very different sizes. But let's go into query mode, and we can actually, I'll show this, count, and we'll divide this by 100 right now. See how that does. That's a lot better. Cool. So yeah, you show them next to each other, and yep. So one of those is from MySQL, and one of those is from Salesforce. Any other questions?
Yeah, no. So how does it know that year is the variable?
Yep. So back in interactive mode, I chose week. That's the default. And you can change it to month or anything else. So was that your question?
Okay. So my general thing was, can you join 2 data sets?
Sorry, you can't join across them. So we don't do, that's called ETL, where you actually combine the 2 data sources. We're working on some stuff for that. But we do let you plot them on the same. And what it's doing right now is just recognizing that the x-axis are the same values. they're both data x-axes. So they don't both have to be, they both have to be kind of the same x-axes. Otherwise your chart will look really weird. So, and that's what we try to do to keep it simple is if you do something wrong, we still try to draw that chart for you and you can see, oh, that chart looks really weird. But usually that kind of explains, like, because it's visual, we can kind of learn, oh, I see why it's weird. This one's grouping by week, and this one's grouping by month, so I need to just alter that.
What about, so Salesforce reporting, they have such features as bucketing or matrix summaries, things like that. What can this do?
Yeah. So let's drag here, and we can drop profit. Sorry. I'm going to get rid of this layer just for a second. I'll get rid of both. And we can kind of buff it by profit. And the computer's getting slow for a second. Just refresh. Okay. We'll bucket by profit. And profit is actually a measure, but we're putting in a dimensions field. And so you can say profit is over 10. And now we're splitting by less than 10 and greater than 10, where our profit is less than or greater than $10. And you can actually, add more buckets if you'd like through this interface. So actually, that's one of the problems. SQL actually is a lot more flexible than SQL. And so basically, if you can do it in Salesforce, yes, we can do it in SQL. It's why we're taking a little while on this private beta is just getting all of those SQL things to work the way that kind of SQL does, and we're having to do some extra manipulations and things like that on our because we're very insistent. We also support Google Analytics as a service, and we're very insistent on making all the data sources that we add and use act in the same way, so that your users don't have to learn, two different types of SQL syntax, and Salesforce API, and Google Analytics API. We try to keep those consistent. So.
Is there a row limit to tables that you'll analyze?
Say again?
Is there a limit to the number of rows that you'll analyze in a table?
No, there's not. So we connect to your reporting database. And so it's basically however much data that you can kind of handle. So, we have users with hundreds of millions of rows, and probably up from there. I'm not exactly sure. And it's all just like they have a very powerful database on their end handling it. We also support like Redshift and Google BigQuery, and they can do just billions and billions of rows of data. And the thing is, the things that come back are just the aggregated results to Chartio. So we're really leveraging the power of that database and leaving it where it is. And so, if you're doing, I want to see the number of users we've gotten over the past 3 months, that's just going to be like 92 data points that come back to us, actually, even though it could be chugging millions and millions of rows in your database. Still to us, it's just going to come back as 92 results. There's usually not much of a load.
What do you do with slow running queries then, does the user have to be smart enough to know when to put an index in?
If the query is slow and you want to speed it up, you can go into SQL mode, as I showed, and choose to rewrite that query with the index or add an index. We give a nice query log and show you all the queries that are being run and how long they take, so that you can kind of modify things if you would like. We also do a lot of caching, so you can set your cache level and interval level based on the data source that you're getting. So you might want to say, actually Salesforce has some API limits, so you might want to say, only query this twice a day. And we keep the old results until then. So it's also nice that if multiple people on your team are hitting the same dashboard, just a couple minutes apart from each other, you don't run fresh queries each time if you specify. It instead just shares those results with everyone on the team.
So does that mean you can do snapshots?
Oh, man, I didn't show that. Thank you. Yes, all of the charts you can get images of, you can download the CSV data, you can take PDFs of. The dashboard you can also download a PDF of, and you can also schedule reports that are emailed to you either daily, weekly, or monthly, however you specify.
So in Salesforce, they have a snapshot where they actually, you create a table that stores the data, the query, so you can see how it's been over time, which you can't really do with a live database.
I see. So actually, as a security thing, we actually only store the last result that you ever ran. We just write, when we get a fresh result, we write over the old one. So we don't actually do that snapshot. That could be a feature that we turn on in the future, but right now we don't run that snapshot. Good question.
But in theory, that's a snapshots are a custom object, so you can access that.
Oh,
right?
yeah, good point.
Yeah, I guess we could. But though maybe the snapshots would be for the data that you already set up in Salesforce, so it wouldn't
Right.
be the data that you're maybe plotting in Chartio, if those are different. Yeah.
Well, sort of a related question then, just to put it in context. Last year we got a demo of C-Sense, Sci-Sense, and
Okay,
you know,
yeah.
there's sort of the new wave of analytic products like Good Data and Burst and all that. Where do you see your product sort of fitting in amongst these?
Yes, great question. Yeah, so there's definitely some newcomers in this space for sure. Some have been around a little longer. So our product, we aim to be really, really simple and focus towards that business user to be able to use, and also just, if you focus towards that business user, make it simple for him. It usually means it's simpler for the engineer as well. And then the other thing is we're vastly different on security in that we don't actually do any data warehousing. And we think that has a benefit in two ways. One, it's never going to give someone else an entire copy of your database in that you just never know what they do with it. In Chartio, because we do a query log, you can see in Chartio, like we have a log of all the queries that you've ever run, but you can also check on your database. This is all the queries that Chartio's ever run, and just verify that. And also because of that, we're more real time. When we were hiring our first salesperson, I remember we were giving her a demo, and in the middle of the demo, another sale happened and it updated right on the dashboard. And we were like, that's really cool. And it's really helpful, and it's really nice these days. There's no reason you shouldn't be doing real time. It's just really nice. And the other thing, like I said, just our interfaces are fairly different. And it's kind of a taste of what you like. I tend to like the way we do things and the way we're going.
No,
I hope so.
there's definitely some cool things here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and again, for the business user, everybody has the issue of, gee, my Salesforce dashboard is great, but it doesn't have finance, it doesn't have, all of our other siloed systems.
Yep.
This is a way to create an aggregated dashboard.
Yep.
for management.
And we also know, like, a lot of people put a lot of effort to putting extra things into Salesforce just so that they can kind of chart them and put them with that. Like they'll spend weeks putting their finance data up into Salesforce just so they can see it there where they need to graph it. And Chartio makes that easy where you can just aggregate it into that and still work off your
Right.
database data and not have to worry about
So
it.
you can have your forecast and you can have your revenue, but what you can't do right now is do a custom graph that's comparing the two or in real time.
Yep.
But at least they're up there on the same email or same.
Right.
same dashboard.
Yeah, you can't divide unless you're like exporting and putting it into a database or something like that. But usually if you were like pulling the data out and you did want to do some comparisons like that, you would be putting it into a database, the results often, and then we make it really easy to chart. You're still going to need to chart those results.
So you talk about going directly into Salesforce data and you use the user's login and password. Is that what allows you to adhere to the security that's set up in Salesforce? Like, what if somebody's not allowed to see data? Do you let them bring that data back?
Yeah. So it's whoever logged in. That's the security that we're going to have. So We're looking at ways to make it so that, you know, there can be multiple logins for that Salesforce account, depending on who logs into Chartio. Like each person kind of has their own login to Salesforce. But right now it's just, you know, like the manager or someone on the team will log in, and you'll be able to see the data that they have access to. Because anyway, in Salesforce there is more granular,
Yeah.
where depending on who runs the query, the data comes back differently. And we don't do anything fancy with that. We just kind of like, whoever's login we got, we run that query as that user. But we're looking at ways to get more granularity. Good question. All right. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
All right, you're gonna have a drawing. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Paul. All right, any last business cards? I'm gonna have a drawing for an Amazon gift card, which is not on the premises, so I apologize. I'll mix up on that. Brian, do you want to be the honors?
Will we be sending out a mobile app?
That's your email. Harold? Still here? Oh, there you go. All right. Harold, you won. Thank you. All right, well, thanks everyone for coming. We'll probably do this again in 2 months. Probably the first week of August, I guess that would be. And if anybody wants to sponsor the next one, shoot me an email. And still some food and drinks, so help yourself, and thank you very much. Yeah.
Things going for you guys? Still drowning or?
Yeah. Got my hands full with, I mean, we have a customization project that is entering its 6th month right now. Yeah, it should have been, but I don't, it hasn't been technology at all. It's just been, you know, getting sales, finance, and legal together.